Vasishtha's been coming to terms with the fact that many people won't be receptive to these teachings. And there's an urge to try and put them across because they're clearly of benefit. They're clearly of benefit to humanity. But you can only try so much and then you realise it's quite pointless. This is really where we begin the next chapter. Vasishtha continued, O Ram, he who comes forward to remove the sorrow of people of perverted intelligence is endeavouring to cover the sky with a small umbrella. They who behave like beasts cannot be instructed, for they are being led like animals by the rope of their own mind. Indeed, even stones shed tears looking at those ignorant people who sink in the mire of their own mind, whose actions spell their own doom. And it's like I said, it's like watching people bang on their head on a brick wall. People are tormented by their own minds. They're victims of their own minds. They're victims of their own thoughts, their own notions, their own beliefs. And the Yoga Vasishtha presents us with a way through notions and beliefs, through our thoughts, to our essential awareness. It's very simple, although very subtle. And most people are just not going to be interested. Never mind whether they get it or not, they're just not even going to be interested. And Vasishtha's coming to terms with that. And I have to come to terms with the fact that my videos will only get a handful of viewers. That's just the way it is. Hence the wise man does not attempt to teach those who have not overcome their own mind and are therefore miserable in every way. On the other hand, the wise do endeavour to remove the sorrow of those who have conquered their mind and who are therefore ripe to undertake self-inquiry. I don't think you even have to have conquered your mind. This idea of conquering your mind is a little bit of an excuse for not getting on with it. Anybody's ripe to undertake self-inquiry if they've stumbled on their own awareness. And then they can go about conquering their own mind, then they can start doing practices. The mind is not, O Ram. Do not unnecessarily imagine its existence. If you imagine its existence, then it destroys you like a ghost. As long as you have forgotten yourself, so long does this imaginary mind exist. Now that you have realized that the mind waxes large by the continued affirmation of its existence, abandon such thinking. This is a bit like saying, don't think of a monkey. The only thing you can do here is to get in touch with your own awareness. And from that position, you can start chiseling away at your basic beliefs and assumptions, one of these being the existence of the mind. When objectivity arises in your consciousness, the latter becomes conditioned and limited. That is bondage. Now, objectivity we normally understand as being impartial, not being emotional, not being subjective. But objectivity really, in this context, means the tendency to identify objects. Rather than be in the awareness which is just allowing everything to happen, objectivity is the process of conceptualization, the cognitive process where we identify things, we identify relationships between things, we identify notions of a world out there, notions of ourselves, and there's a whole cycle of desirable and undesirable tendencies that come into play. That's when we become conditioned and limited, and that's bondage. When objectivity is abandoned, you become mindless, mindless. That is liberation. And that's when you're centered in your own awareness. Coming into contact with the qualities of nature is conducive to bondage. Abandoning them is the road to liberation. Knowing this, do whatever you please. Realizing I am not, and this is not. Remain firm and unmoved like the infinite space. Abandon the impure thought which creates a duality of self-world. In the middle, between the self as the seer and the world as the seen, you are the seeing. And it says here in brackets, sight. But I don't think that's a helpful hint there. It's simply the seeing. Always remain in this realization. And we can extend that. Between the experiencer and the experience, you are the experiencing. Knowing this, remain in self-knowledge. And this is the key. This is the crux. There is only the experiencing. Sometimes I call it the field of experiencing or the stream of experiencing. And if you want to meditate, then do the just sitting meditation, where you just sit and you're just allowing everything to arise and fall within this field of experiencing. You're not judging it, you're not thinking about it. Any thoughts that arise, just arise and let them fall. Just be space for the field of experiencing. Be awareness for the field of experiencing. When abandoning this self, this is your awareness, your essential awareness, you think of an object, then you become the mind subject and thus become the subject of unhappiness. This is the mind kicking off. When you think of an object, this is awareness now identifying with the mind. That intelligence, which is other than self-knowledge, is what constitutes the mind. That is the root of sorrow. The mind has got nothing to do with self-knowledge. When it is realized that all this is but the self, there is no mind, no subject, no object, and no thinking. That's when you're centered in awareness. When you think, I am the jiva, etc., the mind arises and with it sorrow. These are notions of selfhood, of individuality, of soul, or whatever. When you know, I am the self, the jiva and such other things do not exist. The mind ceases to be, and there is supreme bliss. Well, certainly there's no room for any negativity. In the light of the truth that all this universe is the self alone, the mind does not exist. Only so long as the serpent of mind is in the body is there fear. When it is removed by the practice of yoga, where is the cause for fear? We seem to have ended up with the traditional yogic position here of the mind and the body. And the mind, the serpent of mind, is what does the hissing, and the hissing is the thoughts. But there's neither mind nor is there body. So when it's removed by the practice of yoga, where is the cause for fear? It can only be removed by self-inquiry. That can be the only practice of yoga that's being referred to here.